Hello, everybody, wherever you're watching around the world. Welcome. Great to have your company for this one. It is webinar number 3, brought to you in association with World ParaVolley. If it's the first time you're joining us, a reminder, we've got 2 that you can look back on that are already on the platform. An introduction to VolleySLIDE and getting people involved with the sport. That's with Matt and John. And then webinar number 2 was coaching people with different disabilities with Ivan. Both are available to download. Do reflect on those if you can, because they're absolutely fantastic. But this is number 3 of 5, and we start to talk about the match situation, and I'm really excited to welcome our guest speaker. Before we do, though, a little bit of housekeeping reminder. Please keep your microphone muted. There will be an opportunity to ask questions later where you will have to unmute your microphone, but until then, we're going to ask you to stay quiet in respect of our guest speaker. This is being recorded, so in case you're unable to stay for the entire session, or you know someone who will benefit for you, don't worry. It will last forever. Seems like a long time, doesn't it? But the game's going to last forever, so we may as well provide some brilliant resources for you all to enjoy. Our guest today will be using a presentation, so if she doesn't come up as the main speaker on your screen, then make sure that you pin her, because then you'll be able to see all of the brilliant resources that she has prepared. Okay, our guest today, Nicole Ban, her coaching CV, well, it speaks for itself. She's brought her team to the #1 ranking in the world and won a medal at the Paralympics in Paris in 2024. As well as that, she's on the Coaches Commission working on a number of really exciting projects, and she is an excellent coach, an excellent person, and we say hello all the way from Canada to Nicole Ban. Nicole, I'm assuming you're in Canada, but you could be anywhere in the world at the moment. How are you and where are you?
I am great. I'm actually in Europe right now. So it is 10 p.m. where I am. So Canada would be 2 in the afternoon. So I'm happy to join you all this evening.
Japan, it's 5 in the morning. So
Yeah, there you go.
konnichiwa.
Okay. Morning, evening. Maybe we have some afternoon people as well.
The floor is yours. I'm really looking forward to this. Good luck.
All right. Amazing. I will share my screen if I can. Perfect. Can everybody see? Everything's good? All right.
Everything is
say
good.
yes.
Go ahead.
I was like, because everyone's muted. Perfect. All right. So thanks everyone for joining today. I am Nicole Ban, as already introduced. I have been coaching the Canadian women's team for 10 years. I've been to 3 Paralympics with the team. I have a Master of Coaching in volleyball from the University of Alberta, which is in Edmonton, the city that I would usually be presenting from, and where our team is based out of. And really, I've fallen in love with this version of volleyball. I myself have played in the past, and I've coached indoor as well. I have many mentors in the sport, which is where a lot of this information will come from. As you probably can already tell, I speak quickly. So I know you've been told not to unmute, but you can unmute if you have any questions or if I am talking too quickly. I am used to being in a gym, so being behind a screen and talking at a computer feels a little bit uncomfortable. So thank you for listening and bearing with me. To start, the topic is bench management to impact the game. And I'll go through exactly what I will talk about, but I wanted to make it very clear that this topic is all my personal opinions. Yes, I do have a Master of Coaching. I have learned about how to coach sport, how to coach the game of volleyball in general, but I think every context is very different. Every team is very different, and I've learned through my 10 years with Canadian women's team. So your context might be different, and I may be saying things that are different than how you coach or how you approach the game, and I don't want anyone to think that what they're doing is wrong. I am happy to have a conversation around it, but this is my lived experience coaching the athletes that I coach. Also, this is my first time presenting from Canva, so bear with me. Hopefully everything works smoothly. Okay, getting into the agenda, we'll do a bit of an introduction and my coaching philosophy. Topic 1 we'll discuss before the match and communication with my team, with staff, and game planning. Topic 2 will be during the match. So that's going to be mostly around data collection and then how we communicate that data to our team and how we use that information. And then topic 3 after the match will be debriefing and evaluating if really the game plan worked. So this whole conversation will be from essentially long before a competition starts, how we prepare, once we get into a competition, once we get into a match, and then after the match as well. A lot of what I'll use and what I talk about will be what we did in Paris. So it's quite complex and quite a high level. We had access, as I'll go through, to many staff that were doing data analytics behind the scenes, which I'm very grateful for. But in the past, I've had myself, when I started with this team, when we were in Rio, we had one assistant coach and we had no analysis happening live. So it was pen and paper. It was us doing all the stats, all the work. And so I want everyone to know that whatever level you're at, I think that this is very valuable and there can be takeaways. All right, getting into a bit of an introduction and the impact of the head coach. So here, I chose to use a picture of myself sitting on a bench, writing the lineup, I believe is what I'm doing, for a couple different reasons. But my coaching philosophy, well, I guess I'll start with head coaching can be really isolating. So it often feels like if you win or if you lose, like it's great when you win, but when you lose, it's all on the head coach. They didn't make the timeout at the right time. They didn't make the right substitutions. Maybe didn't use the right starting lineup. And that can happen. Obviously, our previous experience in Paris, that wasn't the case. It's great when you win, but creating relationships, I think, is very, very important. That's what a lot of this presentation will be about, and utilizing the staff that you have, empowering your staff to have a voice, empowering the people around you to support you. But here I really wanted to show that I have in the past felt isolated. I have felt kind of by myself at times, really carrying the burden of what it takes to win and what it takes to coach at a high level. So my coaching philosophy is very athlete driven. And just like with staff, it's very relationship based as well. So it's empowering the athletes to make their own decisions, to really have a voice in the gym, to ask questions, to question me as a coach. But the part, I guess, in this presentation that will be a little bit different is in a match, I truly believe that the coaching staff and the head coach, that's the one calling the timeouts, making the lineups, etc., needs to have a bit more of a louder voice. So this is a scenario where kind of coming into the situation and asking too many questions and giving kind of too much power to the athletes, I think can cause problems. And I definitely did that younger and earlier in my coaching career. So kind of to summarize that, it can be isolating being a head coach. I think it's important to create relationships. That's the type of coach that I want to be. But when you are in a match, making decisions is key. And that's how you can win, and using the people around you. Next slide. So here, topic 1 before the match. So as you'll see on the right of the slide, those are the staff that we had on the bench, the coaching staff, 2 assistant coaches that we had on the bench in Paris. There were many other people behind the scenes, and then 2 analysts actually that were working for us as well. So kind of opposite of the last slide is just showing that there are people around you, there's people to support you, and there's a whole team behind the team that you see on the bench that actually goes into this as well. So in this topic, we will discuss coach expectations and style of play, staff roles and how important they are, match preparation during practice. I think it's really important to make sure that you're doing similar things in your practices than that you'll do in a match. So no, it's not exactly like a match, but making sure you practice the substitutions you might make. You practice situations where there could be delays, where you could be using the exact type of language you'd use in a game plan or in a match. So here before the match, the key I wanted to talk about was setting the stage as the head coach and what are your expectations. So I think it was very clear going into Paris for our team that we wanted to medal. So our expectations were to win every game. We made that clear. But now we're going into a situation where we're rebuilding with Team Canada. We have a bit of a younger group, so actually not every game is a win. Okay, we want to win. Yes, we are competitive, but we might have more of the expectation of, okay, to this match, we're going to work on our serve, receive to attack. That's what the focus is going to be on. And then as well as our serving. So first ball contact, and making that really clear going into the match to not only your athletes, but to your staff. Because then they know kind of what you're expecting of them, and they can match what you're going to be doing during the match as far as tactics, etc. And then style of play. If you did watch that bronze medal game or any games that Team Canada women have played recently, our style of play was very, very tough serving. So I got told over and over and over, your team makes too many errors on the service line. Well, in that bronze medal game, one of our best athletes has 8 aces in the first set. So maybe that's something that she knew. Go out there, you have the green light, you can hit the ball as hard as you want back there on that service line. So that's just an example of letting our team know, hey, this is our style of play. This is how we're going to play, and it's going to match what we're doing. It's going to match our staff roles. It's going to match exactly our match preparation, and then how we manage our game. So just thinking about that as a coach, what style of play are you doing? It's very easy to get distracted and be doing what everyone else is doing, but think about what works for your team. Next slide. Going into staff roles. So what are priority areas needed for your team to succeed? So thinking about what I've already talked about, consider your team's style of play and what focus areas are. And this is where I think it's really important. What is needed for your team to win? And that might be looking at your athletes first, and then actually giving roles to your coaches on the bench. A lot of the times I've been an assistant coach a lot in my life, and I sat there and kind of felt useless. I was just listening to what was happening and kind of present in the game, maybe doing a little bit of statistics. But the more I've coached and the more I've coached with other coaches, when you give them a role, they can truly thrive. So an example of this, and it will be layered through this whole presentation, is as the head coach, when we were on the bench or even in practices, I was overseeing all parts of the game. So running the practices, leading in the matches, overseeing the offensive, the defensive parts of the game. But one of our assistant coaches was our offensive coordinator. So she worked with the setters. She worked with any type of offense we were doing in practices. She gave feedback on how we were attacking, and you'll see what she did in the match as well moving forward. The second assistant coach was our defensive coordinator. So looking at the opponent's attack angles, looking at anything we were doing. Were we blocking line? Were we blocking cross? How were we playing against our opponents, and what type of defense were we playing? Giving them very specific roles to do in practice really allowed them to then transfer that into the match. And then we were very lucky in Paris. We had 2 analysts actually, but normally at events we have 1 analyst, and they're doing in-match coding, and then they're sharing information post-match to myself, to the athletes, and they're very integrated into our staff. So we're not really separating them from our coaches. One thing I did make note of as well, not on our team, our staff roles are these as I've outlined. We don't directly talk to our analysts during the game, but some of you will see that there are people that are mic'd up to their analyst, which I think is something else that could be a role for an assistant coach. And maybe that's all that they're doing, but it is something, or a head coach, if that's what they prefer. We've done it in the past, but I don't prefer it. All right. Getting into the fun stuff. So now talking about game planning. I really, truly enjoy game planning, and something I think you need to think about is what information is important for athletes to succeed. So as coaching staff, you might have all the information, you might have all the analysis, all the information like we do, essentially coming from all the other games that have played, but what do your athletes really need to see, and what do they need to know? The coaches can have information, but what do you want to share? Not everything you know, I don't believe, should be shared with the athletes. I think it could be information overload. So here I've included a few examples of what we've done in the past and some of the game plans that we've done. But as I said before, You might not have a fancy computer or fancy information. You can see on these slides here, we have receive numbers, we have attack efficiencies. Maybe that information isn't included, but what is valuable for your athletes to be able to succeed? We did divide this, and we always have. We've divided this amongst our staff, so it's not only myself doing this game plan. In the past, it has been, but we had our offensive coordinator doing the offense, defense coordinator doing all of the defense, and then myself, I did a couple parts, the rotations, the serving, and then oversaw the whole thing. So here you can see on the left opponent rotations, I have covered, if in the black, if you were wondering, I have covered pictures. So we actually use pictures that we use from screenshots from the game. So our team can see not only a visual of numbers and a court, but they can see what the team looks like live as well. So that would be the opponent rotations, all 6 rotations, who to key. I've kind of just left this one blank. It says key 1 every time, but that would change in our game plan. And then the green, if you are wondering, that is where we want to serve to. As I said, that is very important for us. So those are serving targets on the opponent side. Fun fact, we actually removed our serving targets going into the bronze medal game before we played Brazil. We played them the first time. We served very weak. And so we said, hit your best serve. Go after it rather than really worrying about exactly where to serve. On the right, you will see opponent attack angles. So this is something done by our defensive coach. And we're outlining where all of their attackers that would be on a starting lineup are attacking. I could talk about game planning all day. So if anyone has questions at the end, feel free to ask them. But just an example here, we're trying to keep it really simple, not have too much writing. We use emojis, as you can see. So there's emojis meaning different things. And then the L that you can see in red near the net, that means we're blocking line. And we also have an A for when we're blocking angle. This has changed over time. This might change throughout this quad. I'm talking a lot about what we did in the past. Another part of our game planning. So our opponent defense and how to score, as I've said, once again, behind the black is a picture of exactly what the opponent's block and defense looks like. And then we outline when we are in system, how can we score? When we're out of system, how can we score? This gives our athletes a really clear picture of what this looks like. And then obviously video is tied to that. The last thing you will see on the bottom of the slide is serving angles. The yellow is a float serve. The red, if you're wondering, is a spin serve. The B's are the blockers. So on the server on the left, we have a hard server here. We want 3 blockers every single time against them. So there's just an example. The caution at the bottom is something we really want to draw our athletes' attention to. Okay, so that's all before the match. Now going into topic 2, during the match. So I've split things up here into the science of coaching and the art of coaching. And essentially I did that because a lot of information coming in, the science is the facts. It's the raw numbers, it's the data. It's if you're sitting on the bench and you're keeping kills, your total number of attacks, you get attack efficiency. It's all the things that we know for sure. And we're getting that live, as I said, to the bench during a game. And then the art of coaching, I think this is the hardest and the most important part, and something that I really have to continue to do work on myself, regulating my emotions, determining when I need to add information, but that's the communication during a game. And I put here timing is everything. I truly believe that. I think a timeout at the right time or substitution at the right time can change the whole flow of a game and end up winning or losing, really. Moving to the next slide, explaining the science of coaching a little bit and what we've done. So now what information can you collect to help your team succeed? So just like I said with the game planning, you might be able to collect a lot of information, but what are you actually using in a match? So now here, this is our defensive coach. You can see her in the picture. She is using an iPad and the picture from the iPad is on the right-hand side. So that's the exact data we're collecting. It looks very similar to our game plan, and it's the attack angles per rotation of our opponents. She is also holding out one finger. That is the serve target we are hitting with that server. So we're giving a serve target. Okay, when the serve goes, this is a 1, for example, to 1, okay, where do they set and what do they attack out of that? And then we're able to use that during the match and share that information with our athletes. It ties exactly to her role. It's not confusing. I know who to ask. It's very clearly information coming to me if I need. I use the iPad quite a lot, and I'll show it as an example later. Oh, this video shouldn't start. Sorry, everybody. I'll put that on after. Okay, going into a little bit more. Our offensive coach on the left here, you can see it says no video, but this is an example of what we see. We have a tablet. We have two iPads on the bench. And this is one, our offensive coach holds a tablet using VolleyStation. We go into match mode and we're watching video delay. We're on a 7 to 10 second delay depending, and it goes point by point. You can see that too there, and it shows the rotations of both teams. The point by point is great because you can go back and rewatch things that have happened. So yes, we watched the delay, but then we can go back and watch and show athletes information as well. But then I just wanted to use an example of when we see an athlete making an error or we see an athlete blocking in the wrong position, we will use the iPad, we will show them, and then we're able to make changes live. So I will show a video, and it's an example of our captain. She hits a ball cross court, she gets caught inside, she hits a ball cross court into the net. So we identified rewatching that play. Okay, one, you need to get off the net and get outside, but they have line open. And so this was a key to us succeeding in our bronze medal match. She's actually attacks back down the line many, many times after that. So I just wanted to show an example of us having this on the bench, us being able to utilize this, and then it impacting the game. Let's see if I can get this. There you can go. The attack into the net, you'll see. So we show her this, and now this is the very next play. After a timeout, she's able to swing down the line. Exposes the line there as well. Oops, there we go. All right, getting more into what I believe is the hardest part, the art of coaching. I've kind of put this quote here: if the coach does the work before, so before the match, there should be very little to do during. So in my master's, I had a course and specifically did a project on volleyball, and I read a book about volleyball, and it talked a lot about that. You should do all the work before the match and then you can relax. And I was like, oh, wouldn't that be great? And I think everyone on here that's coached in a game, unless everything's gone perfect and the stars have aligned, it's not always that easy. You have to be active as the coach. You have to be calm, and you have to find ways to impact the game during it. I think reading the pulse of the game is really, really important. But the 3 ways that I believe and I have been able to impact the game is information sharing from the sideline. For those that have watched me coach before, I don't spend all my time on the sideline. I know this is a sport played on the ground. I am 6'2". I don't like to stand on the sideline. So I'm running back and forth, and a lot of people do laugh at me for that. I have in the past, and during this game, you'll see as well a little bit later, crouched down, as you will see in shared information more. It's just how long my knees can handle being bent like that. So something I think is really important when I'm going to the sideline, I'm sharing information. It's simple. It's clear. It's something like saying, hey, we need 3 blockers on this receive. We only had 2. They're scoring. Let's go to 3. I might say what the opponent attack angle is. Hey, let's move our block in angle. Angle. It's one word coming. They know what it means. We've practiced it in practice and we're able to adjust. Or who do we want to set to get out of a rotation? Something very clear, very simple. Timeouts. When to call a timeout, I think is really important. Everyone has their own philosophies here. Mine is to not let the opponent go on 2 or 3 point run. If you can call a timeout within 2 or 3 points, try to get the flow to stop. Sometimes early in a match, I might let 4 go. but calling a timeout, having clear information to give to your team, and then that ties into the what to say. When you're struggling, normally it means the opponent's going on a run and you're not able to side out. So clear information, where's the serve going? What are we going to run? Talking to your setters, calming them down, making sure your team is ready to score. If your opponent calls the timeout, then I think it's a little bit different. What is the situation? What information are you able to share? And then the third thing is substitutions. I think that they can be super tactical as well. Have you used both your timeouts and now you're using a substitution near the end of a game because you have none left? You can use it the same way I just said, not letting your opponent go on a point run of more than 2 or 3, or is it a planned substitution? Do you have a serving sub that you regularly use? Are you using them early in a match or late in a match? How are you impacting the game with that substitution? And I think, as I've mentioned a couple times, the biggest piece here and with the art of coaching is, of course, you need to read the pulse of the game. You need to understand when you need to call these timeouts, when you need to share the information, but it's also that you've practiced it in practice. You're not throwing someone out there for the first time as a substitution. You've done it before. They know what they're doing. They're a bigger athlete. They're going in the front row of a block. Making sure that you make your team, your staff, your athletes comfortable prior. Okay, next slide. I think the video is going to play right away, so I'll go to the next slide. It does have audio. If you cannot hear the audio, somebody let me know. But it is a video of during our Paris bronze medal match, and I'm just talking through a few different scenarios. So there's a voiceover over the video. The first scenario is the opponent calls a timeout. So we are serving. I am using the iPad. I'm showing their attack angles and I'm talking through that. And then the second timeout is I'm calling a timeout. What am I sharing? What information am I sharing for the athletes? And then the last scenario is I call a timeout and now I'm coaching from the sideline because the timeout was not successful. And I just wanted to share that because it's a bit hard to follow and I can share the video as well later if people want to see it again. This video will outline some of the impacts of coaching in our match for the bronze medal game. Here, the opponent calls the timeout because we have scored off hands on the block. You can see I have the iPad in my hand. I am showing our athletes the attack angles of the opponent and how we're going to play defense here because we are serving, so they are coming back at us. Now here in this scenario, our team has called the timeout because as you will see, we do not get the point here. They have earned 2 points in a row. We are still winning, but I've called the timeout. There is no iPad in my hand. I am talking now about our receive, how we can score, go to either side, use hands on the block here, be aware of this. And when you see that we come out of the timeout, you will see a non-setter is setting. So number 3 in position 2 is setting, which is not what we would normally do here, but we have simplified and we are trying to score. We do not score on the first point, so we actually have to do it twice, but this is where we score. Now moving forward to the third set. So we are up 2-0 in the bronze medal match, and we are losing here. We had a timeout at 11-9, and now as you can see, it is 13-9. I am not calling a timeout because I have already used one, and I am trying to coach now more from the sideline, as you will see coming right ahead. We have earned the point here, so we are at 13-10. And you can see here, I'm talking to the libero, giving her some information as there's a break on the play. They're wiping sweat off the court, and we're trying to close this gap here. Talking throughout the rally, giving some information, trying to calm some nerves. They get called on a lift here after running the middle. It is now 14-13. A dig here and a play from our setter out of the middle gets a touch call. We are tied 14-14 after going on a very long run here to tie up the game, and I believe this is where we actually have a chance to win a bronze medal. All right, so moving on to topic 3, after the match. So Something that our team does and that I believe is very important is debriefing after a match, whether it's a win or it's a loss, not only with staff, but with the athletes as well. We normally give a period of time to cool down, to remove the emotion, so it's not right after the match. And we actually use a scale from 1 to 10. It's color coded and it has descriptors. And we both independently, the staff rate the game, the athletes rate the game, and then we have some debriefing questions that we go through. And one of those is, how effective was the communication? Were we able to clearly share information? Did we follow our game plan? And were we able to execute? It then allows us as staff to take that information away. Okay, if we didn't follow the game plan at all, well, maybe your game plan was good and it wasn't utilized. But if we followed our game plan and then we still weren't able to win or we weren't successful, we're then reevaluating that game plan, making updates, changing things, and making adjustments for the next time that we play an opponent. And I think a clear example is we lost to Brazil in the round robin in Paris, and then we beat them the next time that we played for a bronze medal. And we made a lot of adjustments. And you actually can see here on the left, the picture there is me in Paris. I can't remember how I got there, but I took a train, I think, to get to see our analyst because he was coding the rest of the matches at the gym to get there so we could debrief on one of our games that we played and then create a game plan for the next opponent that we're playing. And you can see on the top, the 2 assistant coaches are leading a debrief session here too, reevaluating one of the matches that we played in a video session. And I think that's the piece that I didn't share earlier, is just that with the game planning, every piece that I showed, we have a video component of it as well. So we have some athletes that learn visually with the video, some verbally, some with what they're seeing in the game plan, and everyone kind of takes a different approach. And learning that too, I think, is really, really important to empower them to be able to execute a game plan. It's not easy. And that's a point where we're at right now, is kind of restarting at the beginning of a quad with a younger group is, okay, what information is important? How much can they take in? And what does our game plan need to look like so we can all be on the same page? All right. That is the end of what I've prepared. Thank you. Are there any questions? And at the bottom, my contact information is there as well if you prefer to ask me offline or connect.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Nicole. How was that for you, saying you used to talking to people live in the gym? How was it talking to the webcam into the ether? I can tell you that all of us, well, I was certainly listening intently. So how was that as an experience from your perspective?
It was okay. I every time wanted to, like, any questions, but I was being patient on my end and just continuing to the next slide. But hopefully the information can come across clearly. As you saw in the game plans, we like to show things very visually and with pictures, and that's me too. I'm like wanting to move my body around, but no, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Hopefully, that will open the floodgates. We've already got one here from Mohsen, but I'd like to start with the players in your squad. We're talking about sort of bench management here.
Yeah.
So how do you keep the roster kind of inspired, really? Not to know their role, because I know those roles change, but you might be in a situation where you know that a player might have a massive impact on a game, that they're not going to be in your starting 6. So how do you make them feel important and make sure that they're ready when the time comes?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it's the hardest part of sport, and why sometimes you do lose athletes, because they've gone through a quad and they haven't had their opportunity to play. Something that we've done with our team is had really clear conversations about roles. So setting up the roles through the quad. Hey, this is where you are now. This is where we think you might get to, and this is what your role looks like. And the other part of that conversation is including statistics. So we have an individual performance plan for each of our athletes, and it outlines their on-court statistics and where they are, and their off-court. So all of our staff are included in that as well, and really showing them what their potential is, where their gaps might be, and what their strengths are, and where they might be used. As I said, with our substitutions, anyone coming off the bench, they know. We practice it in practice. They know that that's what their role is, and they're ready. And I think an example of this would be this is very specific, but for people who watched us and who have followed us over time, we had an athlete that played all of Paris, and she was an athlete who has played her whole career. She was a starter, she played, and we had a bench player being like, hey, Nicole, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to play. And she knew her role, and I said, you need to be patient. This might not be your time. Let's see what happens. And actually, she played. She played in the final, the bronze medal game, but our final match. She came in against China. She played really well, and it was we took a chance. She went out there. She played amazing. So that's an example of, hey, you waited, you were patient, and unfortunate for the athlete that played, but that was a conversation as well that I had with her. Hey, you're still valuable. We had you ready. We didn't need you. We won in 3 sets, but it's very difficult, and that's the relationship piece as well. Having those clear conversations, and something our mental performance coach and our mental health coach always says is clear as kind.
Of course. And as a head coach, and I'm sure there'll be people on this call who are head coaches as well on programs of varying sizes, you will have a clear vision of what you want every little area of the program to look like. You talked about defining people's roles, and you've got an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, etc. How tough is it for you to effectively relinquish control of those areas and put the trust in the people that are part of your team?
That's funny. I think everyone that knows me asks this question, and they're shocked when I say I have no problem with it. Maybe I wouldn't have said this when I started coaching 10 years ago. I did a lot of it myself, and I kept it internal. But the more that I've coached, and the more that I can work with people, because most coaches I had 2 coaches in Paris. They were my best friends. I knew them, played volleyball with them, against them. They've left the team. And I don't know if people know that, but now I'm working with 2 brand new assistant coaches. And so anything that I can share, even this, in this type of a webinar, in this scenario, I'm an open book. These are our actual game plans that we've used, that now everyone can see. It's going to be online. We're going to adjust. There's no secrets. I want to grow this game. I want to grow this sport. I am happy to share and show people that I trust them. I want them to be empowered to lead. I do tell them in a match, you're going to provide the information, you're going to share information. If I disagree with you, it's not personal. At the end of the day, I'm going to make the decision, and they know that, but we're working together. And I if it ends up in losing, okay, maybe I wouldn't be so happy, but that's a situation sometime. But I want people to feel empowered to make those decisions and lead, just like the athletes, I think, with staff. It's important.
Right, everybody, you heard her. An open book, no secrets. Now is your opportunity to raise your hand and ask a question. Mohsen, you had your hand up before and now it's down. Did you have a question? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, team. You're not going to leave. Oh, yes, Mohsen, your hand's up. If you could unmute your microphone, sir, introduce yourself and ask Nicole your question, please.
Good evening.
Hi.
In your opinion, how important do you think the bench is during a match, and who will have the most impact on the bench? And can other reserve players contribute to the team's winning streak?
I think that was a 3-part question. So I think, yeah, the bench can have a major impact. One, people can come, the libero is going on and off the bench. So they're continuing to get information from the bench, going back on the court. But I also think emotionally, the bench can have a huge impact. And if you look at pictures of any bench from winning teams or from teams that are successful, they're as invested, they're celebrating, they're as involved, and they should know the game plan. They're ready to go at all times. I think that that's very, very key. They're coming into timeouts. They're hearing the exact same information. So I truly believe, yes, a bench can impact a team. The second question, I already forget it. So if you want to repeat that. Unless that answered all of it.
Yes. And who will have the most impact on the bench? And can other reserved players
Mm-hmm.
contribute to the team's winning
Mm-hmm.
streak?
I don't know if I have an answer specifically for who can have the most impact. I think anyone. And maybe it's something that's taken on by certain athletes that truly embrace their role. Because I've had different players at different times be the ones that can impact the game. Usually, and this is maybe just personal, but if you have a backup setter, usually they have a very high volleyball IQ and they understand the game and they can impact the bench a lot. They're usually running the second side in practices. They're pushing your starting athletes. They understand the game at a very high level. And so if you have an experienced or even new young athlete that's pushing to make your starting players better, I truly believe they can have an impact as well. And then, of course, a serving sub, if that's a question you're getting at. For me, that's like the most important substitution you can have. If there's one weak server within your starting lineup, if you can have a serving sub come off the bench, that can impact someone who can serve and then play in the back row across. Thank you so much.
It's interesting hearing you say those things, and in my immediate memory, I'm automatically thinking of things that have happened. So at the moment, I'm not involved with a sitting competition, but I'm in Japan for the Volleyball Nations League. You talk about a service sub. Japan bring on Masato Kai yesterday. He has one involvement in the game, and it's to serve an ace to win the game. And exactly, it's incredible. And then talking about the bench, it seems as though so many teams that are doing well throughout a competition. I mean, your success in the Paralympics, you know that it is a big match load, and it's not just what's happening there, it's the emotional energy. And it feels as though often the bench are in charge of that emotional energy, whether there's, I don't know, something happening like the challenge system's taking a long time. And they're sometimes just having a vibe in the box, like they're doing a dance, or they're keeping people calm, or they're handing out towels, or they're doing whatever needs to be done. And I think it's just evidence that in volleyball, you need to have everybody on that level, because if one person's head goes down in the roster, then the whole thing can come unraveled, can't it?
Yeah. And I think that's the opposing side of it. One, the positive is the bench can believe sometimes when the people on the court aren't feeling it, and they can bring them back in. But on the negative side, if your bench is sitting there, head down, not believing in the team, or kind of wishing they were the ones out there, people can feel that. It's evident and you can see it. So it can go both ways.
Agnes, great to have you back with us. We can only see the top of your head, but I can see your hand raised. So if you could unmute your mic and give us your question, please.
How are you all?
Good, thanks.
We're all good,
fine.
Agnes. We're all good.
I've seen Mohamed Reza, my colleague. We were with him in Thailand for level 1. Thank you so much, Madam Nicole Ban. Wonderful topic. I was asking about this science of coaching during the match. Collecting of data, then providing of the data, and the art of coaching. I'm not clearly understand what is the science of coaching during the match.
Okay.
Yeah, can you kindly explain a bit about it?
Yes.
So that I can get it clearly, the science of coaching during the match.
Yes. I think the science of coaching can be different for every team, and depending what level the team is at. But for me, the science of coaching is any type of numbers that you are collecting during the game to inform your decisions. So our science of coaching is we have an analyst behind the court, and they're coding every single contact, and we're getting live statistics to our bench. So that's information. Who's their weakest server? Who's their weakest receiver that we're going after? So that's information we're getting. But I know not every team has that. So if you're not getting, you don't have an analyst, I think information, also the science of coaching would be tracking where they're serving, tracking where you're serving, and if you're getting an ace, tracking what the opponent's attack efficiencies are. And these can be done with pen and paper. So any information that you're collecting that's numbers, straight lines, I think that's what I mean by science of coaching. And I showed the diagram of what our assistant coach is doing as well. Our defensive coach, she's tracking their rotations and then where do they swing? Okay, her line might be slightly different, but that to me is still a science. It's where she's attacking, where the angle is, and then we can move our defense into those positions. Whereas the art of coaching, that's more of the information. That's more of reading the game. How am I communicating? How am I sharing? Does that make sense?
Thank you so much. Very much.
Welcome.
Yeah. That one is now for me. The way you are saying movement, maybe movement of left attacker or right attacker. Reading the game, maybe the right attacker is not all that in a good position. You tell him to move at the right position. Maybe attacking posture. You know, other players can just want to attack, but the posture of attacking or the place of attacking is not right. Then the serving situation, there are those ones who serve either at the 6 and you want him to serve at 1 or 5. You know, serving at 1 or 5 can make a very big impact to us to get point. But you get a player serving at the very best receiver. So I have understood very well the science of coaching. Thank you so much. And collecting data. Thank you so much. And I've not gotten your email where you'll have to share to us so that we can continue asking you questions.
Okay, I can put it in the chat too.
Yeah.
Speaking of the chat, Robin, stop pretending that you're just gonna put your questions in the chat. You're always involved, and we're grateful for your company. So would you like to sort of unmute and maybe take over this webinar for a little while and have a conversation with Nicole? Because it's always great when you do it. Are you able to speak right now? Oh, you are. Wonderful stuff.
Yes,
hello.
I am. Thanks a lot. I'm not going to take over the webinar though. Hi, Nicole. I'm Robin from the Netherlands. Well, I already typed it in just for myself to get it all coherent. So I was wondering, how do you prepare substitute players who are hardly ever in the starting 6, who have a specific role, for example, serving, when they have to, how do you prepare them to come in a difficult situation? For example, they come in as a substitute server, the team is losing, they have to make the point. That's a lot of stress, right? So how do you prepare players for that?
Great question. We have a couple different ways that we do this. One, we have a mental performance coach who is in all of our trainings and at all of our competitions. So she works with our athletes, if we're talking specifically about serving, with a service routine and with creating situations and training environments to replicate the match. Does it ever feel like the match? I think the answer is no, because you never feel that exact amount of pressure. But we do a lot of situational drills in practice. So I keep using serving as the example. It's the skill that we focus on a lot, where to win a drill, you always have to serve. So in practice, the serving sub won't know. They're on the non-starting side, they're playing, and I will use the whistle, call them over to that side. And we also use the radar gun behind them. So not only do they need to serve and win the point in practice, but they need to hit the radar speed that we know that they can hit. And if they're not within that range, then they'll go back. So it's trying to add actually more pressure in practice than you would have to do in a game. So is that exactly the same? I've played myself. I know, no, maybe not. But it's as much as possible putting them in situations where they're feeling not only the internal pressure, but external, with numbers on a radar, with distractions. Sometimes we'll play music, different types of things to simulate a competition environment. How did they feel? Then we do it in a game, and then they're like, whoa, that was way worse. We're like, okay, now we need to match that in practice. We had this exact example of an athlete that served out the sideline at our last competition and panicked and was like, it didn't feel like that at practice. Of course it didn't. This is your first match ever. Okay, now we can debrief on that. We can reevaluate, and we'll try to put them in more similar situations. But if we didn't have a mental performance coach to evaluate these, maybe it would be missed. But she's continuing to get them to rate, just like I said, after a match debrief, they're debriefing on, okay, what was your internal stress level, external stress level? Let's try to match that in a training environment.
Okay, thanks. One extra question, if that's okay, Dave.
Yeah.
Please.
Additional one. How do you involve, or do you prepare the starting six for that substitute coming in? For maybe if you have a timeout, there's time to do that, of course.
Usually no.
No. Okay.
Yeah. So if it's a planned substitution, sometimes I will say the second time blank goes around, we're going to use our serving sub. But usually we're reading the scenarios in the game, but that's how I would prepare them. And it's done in practice as well. Whenever we're doing game life scenarios, okay, second time around, that substitution's coming in. But I have had situations where in the past, where I've used a sub early or haven't used a sub at all, and then I get hell from the athletes, like, we weren't ready, I didn't know. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it, but also you got to be ready all the time. And that's that kind of art of it, is understanding that, okay, I need to read the pulse. I need to check in with them to make sure that both the people on the court, like you said, and the substitute is ready. And I think that that's something coaches don't always think about. So I think it's a very good question, and they don't really care, to be honest, I think. And that to me is a miss, because that's the relationship piece. That's making sure your athletes are ready, and that's making sure every person is involved. And that to me is bench management. That's team management, and that's being a human being and not only a coach.
Excellent.
So great question.
Also, the first part of that and the mental skills coach, a nice little segue into next week's session, which is gaining a psychological advantage. And that is at the same time. So make sure you join us for that. Do you ever deviate from the science of coaching? Sometimes do you just get a feel for it? So you might look at your bench, you might get some great energy from one of your substitute players and think that they can make a difference. You might have your plan. We might make a substitution at this point or this point. Do you ever sometimes just feel it and think this is the moment for this person at this time?
I think it's in my nature to maybe just feel it too much. So actually, yes. I'm like, kind of wild. My assistant coaches sometimes are like, calm down. No, but not as often maybe as I would like. But yes, some of the decisions that I've made in the past maybe haven't worked, but some of the ones that we did make in Paris, I think were a bit of, hey, this person was feeling it, let's let them have a little bit more of an opportunity. So sometimes it can work in your favor.
Yeah, Paris was good though, wasn't it?
Exactly. It all came together.
Right then, guys, we've got a few more minutes. Let's try and take this up to the hour. I know it's sometimes difficult to find questions when Nicole has been so thorough and given us so much excellent stuff. If you've not noticed already, if you check in the chat segment, she has very kindly put her email address and WhatsApp contact as well. But we've got time for a couple more questions. If you would so wish, just raise your hand and we'll come to you. Got a really, really good group of people here from all over. Oh, yeah, Massimo. Hello, Massimo.
Hello. Hello to everybody. Hello, Nicole.
Hi.
I'm curious. Do you also study habits or other things about of your opposing coaches? For example, when they are under pressure or they win, I don't know. I'm curious.
Now I said I was an open book, but yes, I don't think I study it. I'm a pretty observant person. So when I'm watching a match in general, or I've played a coach more than once, I think, yes, I definitely know they're an early timeout caller. They're going to burn their timeouts early. I'm going to save one. So I know that. I start to watch when they get a little bit more emotional. I pay attention to the other timeout too sometimes. So that's something I learned very early on. And that same quote that I used about like, if you're prepared, when I was an assistant coach, I would just watch the opponent's timeouts when I was young in my career to see what they were doing. And I'd tell the head coach, hey, they're really mad. They're talking about this. He's like, why are you watching that? But now I'll peek over. I'm like, oh, they're fired up over there. We can be calm. Take it easy, or whatever it looks like. So yes, I don't think I do it as part of a tactic, but in my nature, yes, I'm aware. And I'm sure people are doing the same with me. I'm emotional, as if anyone's watched me coach.
Great, thank you so much.
I love watching coaches. It's as entertaining as the game sometimes. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Right then, any more questions? Any more for any more? You don't mind these, do you, Nicole? I love hearing people, and I love hearing your answers to the questions. Do not be shy. We are all one big, happy, sitting volleyball family here. Oh, Agnes, you're back. Hello.
I'm back again to ask Madam Nicole, maybe especially as in Africa, at times we don't have those enough bench. Maybe you don't have the assistant coach. Maybe you don't have, you are the only person, and you want that game to move. You are the only person on that bench. You are the head coach, you are the assistant coach. You only have maybe a trainer. And the competition is near. You want to go, and the players must go for that competition. Kindly advise, because I at times get myself in such a situation. I'm the only one there. Or maybe at times the club says you go alone because we don't have enough money to facilitate you. You just go with the trainer plus the players. How can you cap that situation? You are the head coach alone on the bench. You don't have the assistant coach. You don't have the other assistant coach too. You are the only one and the trainer. Kindly.
I think. Oh, keep going. Sorry. Okay. I think if you're in a situation where you're the only coach in a match, it's a lot harder to be the head coach and collect data during the game, for sure. But I think it goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning. What style of play is your team playing? And deciding on 1 to 2 things that you can do as the head coach to impact the game. If you try to do too much, then you're going to be all over the place. So really trying to simplify it. I would tell you, with my team, if it was just me, I would give the team probably serving targets and focus on where are they serving and how are we going to attack back. So really, really simplify what we were doing, the information I'm sharing, and then having a bit of a plan during the timeouts to clearly communicate as well. Not overshare information. If you try to do too much as one person, I think then you're probably doing a disservice.
Awesome. Thank you, Agnes. Okay, I'm gonna ask the last question then. Oh, we good? Yeah, we're good. And then we will leave you all, get on with your day. Let's talk about goal setting then. And
Dave,
do you have?
Sorry to interrupt, Dave, but Greg has his hand up.
Oh, does he? I missed you. Sorry, Greg. I'm a bad guy, but you're a good guy. What's your question, Greg?
I just had a question for Nicole on any good books or any academic research you're reading lately.
Oh, I'm on vacation right now, Greg. That's I'm sure any books lately, no, but any books I'm going to mention, most people probably have already read. But the book I was referring to a lot was Thinking Volleyball. I don't know if it's old now, so I don't know if anyone's read it, but Leaders Eat Last is something I read recently. It's not specific to volleyball for sure. Academic research. I could send you a couple articles for sure.
I'd love that.
I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I was like, I know you're a volleyball nerd like me, so we can, if anyone else wants them as well, happy to share. But there's not a lot that exists in sitting volleyball, so it's kind of like stretching into other sports and looking at the indoor game, and yeah, staying on top of it is always exciting for me.
Well, there isn't a huge amount that exists in sitting volleyball, which is why we are absolutely delighted to be bringing you these webinars and this opportunity to sort of grow and share. Now, I always say we'll give the last word to you, Nicole. It won't entirely be do you know what? We will give you the last word. I'm going to say everything I need to say, and then you're going to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for tuning into this. We've now got 3 fantastic webinars. That was an incredible knowledge share, Nicole. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us. We are back next week. We're talking about gaining a psychological advantage as we continue to essentially give you as many tools as you need to go on and be brilliant. So thank you for joining us. Nicole, the last word is yours, and we will all say goodbye.
Just thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. If you want to chat, I put my email in the chat here and my WhatsApp. Shoot me a message. If you see me at the gym, always say hi. I love to talk volleyball, and I hope to see everyone somewhere someday. Good luck with your coaching. Thank you.